Okay.
Okay.
We are
rocking
live.
and rolling here.
Yes, we are live. How's everyone doing out there? We're excited to be here. We were just saying hello to all of our friends here on TikTok. My name is John Gardner. This is my wife and law partner, Radla Mendoza.
How's it going, guys?
We are the immigration law firm Gardner and Mendoza, and we come to you every week, sometimes on Mondays. It's really supposed to be on Wednesdays, but we can't do it this coming Wednesday because we have a conflict, so we're coming to you tonight instead. But we do come here once a week, and we give you immigration updates. We give you immigration warnings, and most importantly, we like to answer your questions. We know you all have a lot of questions, so you get the questions loaded up, and we are going to get to them. I have to warn you that what we do here is for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only. It is not legal advice.
Yes, and I am sharing to our my Facebook page, so just bear with us while we get settled here, and as you guys are loading up your questions.
And hello again to all of you out there on TikTok. We really like the TikTok folks. We love you Facebook folks too, but the TikTok folks really bring the questions. Hey, let me warn you, TikTokers. Is that a word, TikTokers?
Yeah, of course.
Let me warn you, TikTokers. Please put your question in only one time and not just load it over and over and over again. Because what happens is when you do that, it starts to push all the questions around, and it becomes really hard to get to any of the questions. So just put them in the order that you're here, because that's how we do it. We take them in the order they come in. So the first person who posts will be the first person we answer. It's just like immigration. It's just like USCIS.
Most of the time.
Most of the time.
Most of the time. Okay.
The sooner you get your case filed, the sooner you get it done.
I'm trying to share it, but that's okay. I think we're good to go here. But let's grab a question before we get into some of the updates.
Yeah, I had one of the things I'm going to do tonight. I want to give everybody a little bit of a warning about dealing with non-attorneys because, as you all know, things in the immigration world have really been heating up over the last several months. And one of the things that's happened as a result of that is a lot of bad actors have jumped into the foray and have decided that they're going to try to capitalize on all the fear that's out there and the panic, and that they're going to try to do some immigration work for people. The problem is they're not qualified to do immigration work. They're not immigration lawyers. They're just people trying to make a buck who think they know something about it, or even worse, maybe they know they don't know anything about it, and they just know that there's a lot of easy targets out there right now. So I want to make sure I'm going to give you some tips on that, what to avoid.
Yeah, go ahead. All
right.
Well, do you think it's worse if it's somebody who knows a little bit of information or someone who doesn't know anything at all? Or is it both just bad?
I think it's both just terrible.
Yeah.
I think it's both just terrible. You might think, well, the person who knows nothing is really dangerous, but honestly, the people that know a little bit are super dangerous as well, because they will try to do things that they think are the right thing to do. And in fact, they're not the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they might actually make the situation even worse.
Absolutely. So let's see here. We have a question here while you're looking from Nicole Matos. Says, hello, can an F2 visa dependent change his status to EB3? Would it be recommendable? So yes, it is possible for a person who is here on a non-immigrant visa, you're a dependent, that's fine, to change your status. And the question is, would it be recommendable? It really depends. I mean, it depends on, are you planning on traveling a lot while you're in your status? And at some point during the EB3 process, we, as attorneys, we may advise you not to travel outside the United States, because then you are at some point an intending immigrant after that I-140 petition is filed. So whether we recommend it, it really depends on the circumstances a lot. Like, what's the position? What's the company? Can the company show ability to pay the wage? Do you have the credentials in order to qualify for this job? And so there are a whole host of questions to ask and analysis. And I invite you to give us a call, and we'll be happy to, with your potential, your future employer. We like to meet with you both, because both of you need to know some of the things that need to happen in order for an EB3 case to be successful. So great question, and we would love to help you.
Okay, and we've got some other questions here, but real fast, I want to get back to this, just giving you some warnings, protecting you from fraud. If you have an immigration case, you have something you want to find out about immigration, you should contact a licensed immigration attorney, preferably us. But if you don't want to call us, then call somebody in your area that you trust and that you know is qualified. Okay. I do want to mention that immigration law is federal, so you don't have to hire somebody that's close to you. Immigration lawyers can practice anywhere in the United States. So even though our office is in Virginia Beach, Virginia, we have clients all over the country, California, Florida, New York, all over the place. And that's going to be true, or possible anyway, for any immigration lawyer. So bottom line is hire an immigration lawyer to help you rather than going to somebody that can help you. Here's some things to look for. Be careful if somebody basically says that they're, the first warning, of course, is if they say that they're not an attorney. So you know right out of the gate that you are not dealing with a lawyer. Okay. And maybe you're like, yeah, but lawyers are going to be so expensive, and so I'm willing to take my chances. I don't recommend that. But if you absolutely insist on that, just know that you're dealing with somebody who is breaking the law by helping you. It's called the unauthorized practice of law. They're holding themselves out to the public and to you privately as an expert in the area of immigration law, a person who knows about immigration law, and in fact, they are not an immigration attorney. So be careful if they are refusing to give you a written contract. All right. If you work with us or a reputable immigration lawyer, there's going to be an agreement. You're going to know exactly what the terms are, what the payment terms are, what the stages of the case are, the timeline, so on and so forth. So if you're dealing with somebody and they refuse to give you a detailed written contract, that should be a major concern that this is somebody you should not be dealing with. If they're charging you for blank immigration forms, all right, you should never be paying for blank immigration forms. All of the immigration forms are available. They're free. You don't have to pay for them. If you're talking to somebody and they are, and this is a major red flag. I mean, all of these are, but this one really speaks to me. If they're promising you a good result because they have a special contact with immigration, or they know somebody in immigration at USCIS, or ICE, or wherever that's going to be able to help them out, that's a major, major red flag. All right. As a matter of fact, just side note, that's a major red flag for any attorney in any area of practice. So if you're ever dealing with a lawyer who says, oh, I know the judge, or, I'm friends with the prosecutor, be really careful with that stuff. Okay. So if you're dealing with somebody and they say, oh no, I know somebody in immigration, red flag, tell them no thanks. If you are dealing with somebody who is pretending to be an immigration lawyer, or says, oh, I was an immigration lawyer in, France, and immigration law is all the same, nonsense. All right. If they're not an immigration lawyer in the United States, specializing in immigration law, you should not be dealing with them. Anybody who asks you to lie on a form or to sign a blank form, we've seen this, the old, here, you guys just go ahead and sign, and I'll go ahead and fill it all out for you, because you have no control over what they're putting on there. All right. And lastly, be really careful of anybody who promises you that for some fee that they can get you on a waiting list, or they can put your application in a special line, hey, pay me an extra $500 and, I'll get your case on the faster line. That's nonsense. There is no waiting list. There is no line, other than just in the sense that, when cases get filed, that's when they start to be processed. So be careful with all of those things. Anybody who's telling you any of those things is trouble. Stay away from them. Don't use them. Call us, okay, instead.
Yep. Excellent, excellent advice.
Yeah, and this is not just like self-promotion or whatever. Radlin and I have been in practice now for 25 years. Our law firm is celebrating its 25th anniversary this October, and we have seen so many cases, so many things. And one of the things that we see all the time are cases that have been filed in some form or started or in some form by a non-attorney and have just been completely messed up. And there's a lot of cleanup that we have to do. And if we had been able to handle the case just right from the beginning, it would have just already been a done deal. All right.
Yep.
So
Great information. And this is actually advice. This is the one time we are giving you advice.
This is advice.
And I do want to add a couple of things, guys. John is right. We're all so connected and we're on social media. We have a TikTok account. People have actually gotten defrauded from our TikTok account because some people are taking my image and starting different TikTok accounts and charging for a consultation that actually never happens. And you have to be really careful. I mean, it's not just you all, it's all people of all education who are getting defrauded. I had a couple of family members, and there's this thing where it's just like, hey, you need to come down and post a bond or we're going to come and arrest you. My family member didn't do anything wrong, but she was completely freaked out. And it looked very official. And she's about to pay this person so she doesn't have to go to the magistrate. She did absolutely nothing wrong. And she was about to get swindled like $2,500.
Mm-hmm.
She's really about to write a check because she thought that they were going to come to her house and arrest her. She's got 2 little kids, but it made absolutely no sense. And so John and I are looking at the documents and just the wording is weird. The court is,
couple things stood out. One that said state of Virginia. Virginia's a Commonwealth.
Right.
So legal documents here say Commonwealth of Virginia.
So we're not talking about just the elderly getting defrauded here, people who may not be educated. We're talking about very smart, educated people, everyone across the board. You have that possibility. And guys, look, you think that because somebody speaks your language, right? They're a people person. They talk to you nice. They sound like they know what they're doing. Maybe you have a couple of friends that went to this notario or similar. Please, guys, be careful. We have seen time and time again documents that were supposed to be filed that were never filed. Notarios and similar people who charge actually more than an immigration lawyer for absolutely nothing. And you just need to be careful, especially now. We've seen it time and time again. And it's tough to get, attorney generals to prosecute these people. It's really hard. But we've seen some real damage done by non-attorneys. And guys, look, we understand that, lawyers make mistakes, right? There are lawyers out there that are also do fraudulent things. We get that. But you know what happens if a lawyer does that? We can get our license taken away. What can happen to a notario? Absolutely nothing, because they have nothing to take away. So you're at least protected by the state bar if you encounter an attorney who is, dishonest, and you have some form of remedy.
Yep.
So it's always best practice to go and seek the assistance from a licensed attorney, whether it's immigration, whether it's criminal defense, whether it's doing your wills or estates. Yes, please be careful. All right, let's, did you have another thing to add to that?
No, we got it all covered there. Iris was going to get our first TikTok question.
Okay.
There was the very first one to post. Jonah, that's how it's spelled. Want to know if we have any CR1 updates, please. Conditional resident. These are folks who haven't had their conditions removed.
So nothing has changed about CR1, Jonah. I mean, if you're a conditional resident, the rules are the same, right? The thing that you have to do for those conditional residents out there, that means you have a 2-year card, you got married, and you got your green card from your spouse, is in that 90-day window before your green card expires, you need to file the I-751 petition. You need to file the petition to remove the conditions on your lawful permanent residency. That's a mouthful, but it's the I-751 petition. So what you have to do, just a little practice tip here, is when you get your green card, or even when you get married, you need to start saving your documents. You need to start saving the documents that you get every month that shows to USCIS, to immigration, that this is a bona fide and a real marriage and relationship. So you have your utility bills in both names, you have your joint bank accounts. If you don't have a joint bank account and you have separate bank accounts, make sure that it's clear how you guys do your bills and how you all manage the family money, right? I'm not talking about family with children. I'm talking about family as in spouse and spouse. So they're looking for documents to show that from the time that you got married to the time that you're trying to remove your conditions on your green card, you have been in a bona fide marriage and relationship, and you need to prove those documents. If you file too early, your application is going to get rejected. You can only file it in that 90-day window before your 2-year card expires. If you file it too late, of course, you're going to have a great excuse as to why you filed it late. And here is my $1 million tip to people who have conditional green cards, and that is use the right form and use a lawyer, right? So many people, they file an I-90, which is to renew your green card, right? Instead of the I-751. And what happens is, USCIS will accept your I-90 application. They will automatically send you a receipt to show that, okay, yeah, we've gotten your application to renew your green card. So you're going to think you're good, right? This thing is like, this receipt is good for 2 years, and you're going to think you're good, but you're not. You didn't file the petition to remove the conditions on your green card. How does this play out in the most awful way possible? It played out recently for a gentleman who, I was just talking to this about a client today, a potential client. And what happened was, it's not funny. I don't know why I chuckled there. I think that I sometimes laugh when a horror thing is like a horrible thing's about to happen. Like, it's just like this nervous, terrible thing. Okay. All right. So what happened was, this person had a conditional green card, and they did not file the I-751 petition. Okay, so conditional green card, you need to file the I-751. Then you can apply for citizenship even when that 751 is pending, right? So long as you're eligible. Has a 2-year green card, does not file the I-751. He is ordered removed in absentia. In other words, he was referred to the immigration court. He didn't get the notice for whatever reason, and the immigration judge said, "We're going to remove you. You're not here, but we're going to remove you." He says he didn't know anything about that. He's been married to his U.S. citizen. It's time to apply for U.S. citizenship. He goes to his naturalization interview, and they arrest him. And I think they've either deported him, or I'm not sure. But there's already an outstanding order for his removal from the United States. And he goes into USCIS right now to apply for naturalization. He got arrested, and he's either detained or and getting ready to be deported. I'm sure that he has great lawyers, hopefully he does, to stay that removal, because it's a mistake. And a lot of people make this mistake. And this administration is not forgiving. They are not forgiving of your oversights. Okay. I mean, if I can tell you anything, I've been watching the social media page of USCIS. USCIS is United States Citizenship and Immigration Services. They are USCIS. They give the benefits. They give you the green card. They give you the naturalization. They give you H-1B, all the benefits. And this social media is just all about people doing the wrong things and handcuffs and ICE. And it doesn't look anything like USCIS's social media from before. Okay. So there's heavy enforcement. If you make a mistake, it can be critical. And the way that they talk about these people who are getting arrested from their interviews, I'm like, man, I just actually had a client that made that mistake. I just had a client who registered to vote and voted in a federal election because they thought they could. They're arresting that person from their interview now. It's like, it's insane. So guys, be really careful. I know this conversation started with notarios, but
Gotta be
it
on
needs
high
to
alert right
end,
now.
and it ended with a permanent resident with 3 or 4 kids who's been here forever, married to a U.S. citizen, getting deported or about to get deported because he did not file that I-751. Actually, that was that CR1 question. All right, moving on.
Yeah, we've got
What
a
can
question.
I say, guys? I'm spirited.
So here's a question. This is a pretty common misconception I think that people have. This person says, if someone came through the border, can he marry a U.S. citizen to get a green card? So
Sorry, somebody crossed the border and
yeah, if someone came through the border, can he marry a U.S. citizen to get a green card? Couple things to say here. I'm going to read into the question. I'm going to presume that you mean came through the border unlawfully,
yeah,
as opposed to, theoretically, everybody who comes to the United States comes through a border, but I'm going to assume for this question that you mean came through the border without inspection unlawfully, and then wants to marry a U.S. citizen for the purpose of getting a green card.
Yeah.
Can you do that? And the answer is no. All right. And let's even take the entered unlawfully part away. Marrying a U.S. citizen for the sole purpose of getting a green card is never allowed under the law.
yeah,
Okay. So you can marry somebody here for many, many reasons. And many of those reasons don't have to deal with romance or love. There can be a lot of other things. They can be friendship and companionship and whatever. Okay.
they can be, because I'm mad at my parents, and I know this is going to
This
get
will
them
make my
so angry.
parents
So I'm going to
mad.
marry this person.
This will be a wonderful business and financial move for us. There are many, many reasons you can get married that don't have to do with love or anything of that nature. But one of the things you can't get married for solely is for immigration purposes. That's one thing that is absolutely prohibited. So this person wanted to know that. So I just want to make sure everybody realizes that you can't ever get married just to get a green card. And even if you came over the border without inspection, illegally, unlawfully, whatever you want to say, and it wasn't for the purpose of getting the green card, you actually just legitimately met somebody and fell in love with them, or
not.
decided you should get married for whatever reason, companionship, friendship, whatever, you still have a problem. You
Yeah.
still have a problem because you entered without inspection. And that case is treated very differently than somebody who is here, who came in with inspection and then fell in love or just decided to get married for whatever reason, or overstayed and decided to get married
Yeah.
for whatever reason. Those are very different situations.
Correct. And I think there is a very common misconception, because I see it in TikTok comments, I see it in social media comments. It's like a person on TikTok who's talking about their immigration story, and they say, "Oh, well, I've been here for 24 years." Like, all the comments, like, 24 years, that's a long time to get citizenship. That's a long time to get citizenship. But you don't know what the facts of the entry are in the United States. Like, if you enter the United States without inspection, and let's say you've done it multiple times and you marry a U.S. citizen, I mean, you have a, what's called a permanent bar. And so, or you can have something that's called the permanent bar. So it's really different, as John mentioned, to enter the United States on a, say, a B1, B2 tourist visa, or an F1, and get married to a U.S. citizen because you want to get married to that U.S. citizen for whatever reason, except not for immigration. Yes, we can do adjustment of status typically and get that person the green card. But if you enter the United States without inspection, and let's just say just one entry, and you marry a U.S. citizen, it is a very long process to fix that. And there, one process may be going out the window. There's this rumor mill that provisional waivers are going to be yanked off as a possibility for for families who are going through this process. That is a rumor. That is not confirmed. I probably should have not said anything, but that's just stuff that I've heard. And if that's the case, then a person can go through this process, but they need to go back to their country typically, and they're going to be stuck there for 2 years, separated from their family, until they can get that immigrant visa. So there are a lot of different scenarios. You just can't come in, as John said, either coming in or already here. You can't come in just to get a green card. Like, that's illegal. That's unlawful. That will end you potentially in jail. And John has defended many marriage fraud cases. And so he's quite intimately familiar with what makes a marriage fraud case and why charges can be brought against you for marriage fraud. So great question, though. All right. We grab this.
Did we grab that one up there?
Oh yeah, Omar. Omar says, can a DACA recipient be eligible for an adjustment of status? Possibly. So if a DACA recipient has entered the United States on parole, maybe they got advanced parole, they left, they came back in, so you have an inspection, then you may be able to do adjustment of status. What comes to mind is, maybe you are married to a U.S. citizen, or maybe, I'm not sure, age-wise, this might not work out, but like if somebody entered the United States with inspection and they were a parent and they had a U.S. citizen child, then that could also, but DACA, I don't think that math works out. Possibly, the child has to be 21. But yes, Omar, it is possible to do adjustment of status for a DACA recipient under certain circumstances. Maybe your spouse is in the military and there's parole in place. And so you can get parole in place and adjust your status. So there are several ways. So if you want to know more about that, Omar, give us a call. We'd be happy to take a look at your case.
That's right. We have our information scrolling here on Facebook. For those on TikTok, our number is 757-464-9224. That's 757-464-9224, or you can email info@gmlaw.net. Okay. So Told here has a question that we've been answering now for the last 2 months. We'll take it again tonight. How safe is it for a green card holder to travel this time? And he says if they traveled freely last year, so presumably this person is a green card holder, they've traveled in the past, didn't have a problem. They're wondering, is it safe for them to travel now?
Yes. So not yes, it's safe for you to travel now, but yes, okay, I hear the question.
It's a good question because
Yes.
we've been getting it every single week. There's a lot of concern about travel.
We're at 8:29 p.m., right? I'm just writing this down. So at 8:29 p.m. we are going to answer. I'm a green card holder. I've traveled in and out of the United States on my green card previously. Is it safe for me to travel now? And the answer is maybe. And the first thing that I want to say is, just because you have traveled in and out of your green card in previous years, in previous administrations, absolutely does not mean that you can or should travel during this administration. Okay. So we have had and seen many cases. Some of them are our own in our own law firm. And of course, we've heard stories and have seen people talk about them where a permanent resident is getting detained and then getting put into immigration proceedings because of some past history, whether it's a criminal conviction, whether it looks like you've abandoned your green card, whether you've admitted to using drugs, whatever the reasons are. We've seen that happen. And we've seen that happen to people who have for years been traveling in and out of the United States on the same very green card. So I want to start with that. The second thing is there's a little list, mental list, or write it down or whatever that we want you to go through, right? The first one is very obvious. Do you have any criminal convictions that can prevent you from re-entering the United States as a lawful permanent resident? Now, I want to say that you need to be allowed in as a permanent resident. You may not as a permanent resident. You need to be allowed in, paroled into the United States, maybe not as a permanent resident, but don't ever let CBP let you sign away your green card. Okay. Go ask to see an immigration judge.
Yeah, it may be a long wait, it may be a hassle. You may
be arrested.
You may be arrested and spend several days, but you, as a green card holder, they do have to let you in. The ultimate determination about what to do about this, whatever it is, say a criminal conviction, has to be made by an immigration judge. Ultimately.
So do you have a criminal conviction, or do you have something that happened and you got a deferred finding, but you pled guilty to it, so it's still a conviction for immigration purposes? Do you have some charges that are not resolved yet? Do you have an arrest warrant? I mean, analyze the criminal record history, right? And most of you guys, that's not going to be applicable, but some of you may.
Yeah, don't limit your inquiry of yourself to just, no, I never went to jail or anything like that. We're talking about, did you ever get any tickets for anything? Did you ever deal with law enforcement? Were you ever charged? Even if the charge was dropped or you think it was dropped, these are red flags that should definitely cause a further inquiry.
And for those of you who you know what your criminal conviction is, and you know that it's resolved, you know that you've spoken to your immigration lawyer. Immigration lawyer says all good. Your immigration lawyer, not your criminal defense lawyer. Okay,
not your
two
criminal defense
totally
lawyer.
Different things.
Your immigration lawyer.
They don't know a lot about this. I was going to say Jack, but they don't know a lot about this, right? Unless they're consulting with an immigration lawyer. Then make sure you have the documentation on you to show the result, right? So guys, we're just on criminal. We spent 1 minute, 2 minutes on any criminal convictions. Okay, that's one. Number two, have you ever abandoned your green card at any point? Have you ever stayed outside of the United States for more than a year? Are you that traveler that goes back in and out, in and out? You stay outside 4 months, you come back in for 1 week, you stay out for 5 months, you come back in for 3 days. That's going to be a problem if you do that. And I've actually had 2 older Indian clients who are citizens of Canada doing this, and they, whatever happened, they freely signed their green cards away because I'm sure that it was getting tense and hectic. That the CBP held them, detained them for hours and hours, and finally they abandoned their green cards and admitted, okay, fine, we don't live here. We're just coming in and out, So, I mean, you don't have to say anything. Again, it can be a little dicey, but don't ever sign your green card away unless that's something that you really want. And if you really want that at the time because you're under duress and pressure and a stressful situation, think about your future self, and your future self is not going to want that. Okay. So did you ever abandon, right? Third thing is, are you engaged in any type of activity that the government might deem to be supporting a terrorist organization? Are you posting anti-Semitic things on social media? What does your social media look like? Is it something where the government can say, hey, you're doing this and we believe you're inadmissible because of X? So watch out for that sort of thing right now. And did I forget anything? Did I cover?
I think so. Got it.
So those 3 main things.
That's it.
Oh, wait, sorry. Four things. Drug use.
Oh, drug
Right.
use.
Drug use.
Yes.
Drug use.
How can we forget drug use?
Because
Even
we're not
asked
drug
me.
users. No, but it's important.
Yeah.
If you have had any type of drug conviction, it goes to arrest and drug convictions, but it can also be to admitting, right? I mean, it could be admitting to using drugs for
Admitting.
just admitting. So be careful with that. Those four things.
Like admitting that you used drugs, not admitting use of drugs.
Right. So whoever asked that question, I don't have your name at the top, but if you can say no to all those things, then you should probably be good to travel.
Yeah, and be careful while we're on the drug thing real fast. Just remember that marijuana is a hot topic still because a lot of states it is legal now in some form or another. It's not legal under federal law. And so for immigration purposes, it is still a problem. So don't be thinking just because you live in a place like Colorado that marijuana is not a problem. If you're not a US citizen, you really need to stay away from it. Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, maybe even if you are, that's a different discussion. And right now, the person asked, and they said, but last year I traveled no problem. A really easy analogy maybe to use to understand what's happening right now is imagine you live in your neighborhood and you've lived in this neighborhood for the last 10 years. And every day you leave, you go up the main road and you know the speed limit, but you go a little over it, maybe 5 miles over the speed limit every day. And there's a stop sign that nobody really stops at because it's kind of by a dead end and there's never any traffic there. So every day for 10 years, you've been going over the speed limit and kind of rolling through the stop sign without really paying attention. And you know that even when there are police in your neighborhood, they don't care. They don't care that you're 5 over. They don't care that you rolled the stop sign because they're doing bigger things. And so you're just conditioned to doing this thing and thinking that's totally fine. Well, one day you go in 5 over the speed limit and you roll the stop sign and it's a different cop that's never been in your neighborhood. And this cop has decided that 5 over is a problem, rolling the stop sign is a problem, and they pull you over and they're giving you a ticket for both things. And you're like, hey, I've always done this. Just like right now, you need to be really just vigilant about being careful with all of this stuff because it's really, really being scrutinized extremely closely right now. Okay?
Yes, absolutely.
So don't rest on what you've done in the past or think, it's fine because I've always done it that way. I've been through so many times. They've never asked me anything coming back in about that. That could change. If you haven't traveled in a year, you may be getting questions you're not used to. You may get flustered. We're immigration lawyers. When you go through, it's inspection. It's scary. It's kind of like there's not a human being out there that doesn't get a little tense, a little flustered when you're going through that. So you just want to make sure you're prepared.
Yeah. And we can also, I mean, this is not really part of the question, but if you have your device, right, your phone, your laptop, they can search those things. I mean, there's an exception to the rule where, you have to have probable cause to search. It is probable cause, right? Okay. But here you don't. Like anyone who's coming into the United States can have their things searched because they're protecting the homeland, right? Coming into the United States. So we're US citizens. I can have my phone taken and searched. I can say, no, I don't want you to do that. And no, I'm not going to give you my password, but they'll take the phone and they'll mail it back to you in a few days, and run it through something. So, also just be careful with what you have on your device and maybe even think about not traveling with your device. I mean, we're immigration lawyers, right? I have TikTok on my phone. All of my videos are about the, helping people get benefits and tips and suggestions and whether to travel. What is that going to look like? I have no idea. And so it's probably best for you to not bring your device, especially if you've been active, if your history is suspicious. I mean, so you gotta think about these. And then I'm not saying you're doing anything wrong. What I'm saying is, if you want to avoid a headache when you're coming back into the United States, you need to take a look at these things and ask yourself the questions whether this is something you want to deal with and be harassed about potentially.
Yeah, just so you know, if you are not a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident, where you have to ultimately be let in, even if there's a major hassle, if you're just coming in on a visa and you don't want to answer their questions or comply with their requests, they don't have to let you in. They will just say, okay, fine. You don't want to answer our questions. Then they'll just turn you around and send you back. So you may want to think about that before you come.
Yeah.
Be prepared.
Okay. Grab that question. I'm going to go ahead and answer Nicole's question. What do you think about the different companies that offer to help you get a sponsor for an EB3 visa to then get a green card? Of course, you have to pay them $25,000. So I would just, Nicole, do your due diligence with companies that offer that and match you up with an employer and just make sure it's a legitimate company that is doing that. Because again, John opened up with just making sure that you are not getting defrauded by people who are trying to take advantage of others who are, in a situation that really, hey, I really want to get my EB3. I don't want to go back to my country. There's nothing else that I can do, but I don't have a company. I don't have anyone that I know. I don't have any contacts that would be hiring me. And so I'm going to go talk to this company on the internet that it looks like it's going to cost about $25,000 to pair me up with an employer who they're going to do this EB3 process. I mean, again, you have to do your due diligence and make sure that it's a legitimate company. The fee of $25,000, fees are all over the place. If somebody said, hey, Nicole, I will match you up with a legitimate employer and we will do your green card for you, and it's only $25,000. I mean, what is it worth to you is really the question. If it's something, I mean, if I say, hey, it's going to be $25,000, guys, this is a hypothetical. I'm not saying we're charging $25,000, but if I say, yes, we can help you get your green card for $25,000, including a job, right? And your job is you're going to be making, at least $45,000 at this position. And you're right, you're currently a non-immigrant in a non-immigrant visa status that does not allow work. When you talk about money like $25,000 or $15,000 or $50,000 or $10,000, ask yourself, what is the value, right? And so maybe it's worth it to you to pay $25,000, have a job and a green card. I know a lot of people who would actually pay over $1 million for that. And I think this is actually a good segue into the $5 million Trump gold card. His website was announced yesterday. It was dropped yesterday, I believe, or 2 days ago. And it's kind of like, put your information in, we'll send you information. There's a wait list. And so I checked it out. I checked out the website. There's absolutely no information on it other than just send me your information. And I actually did. And I was supposed to get an email from, I believe it was trumpgoldcard.com or .gov, an email to put in authentication, but I never got anything. I tried it 2 times. So it could be, not up and running. Maybe too many people spammed it or actually legitimately wanted information about the 5 million. You pay $5 million and you get the gold card. I don't know. More to come on that. It's very interesting that first off, he's not going through any rulemaking process. He's just like, I'm going to offer this and I don't care what Congress says. So we will report more on that for those of you who might have $5 million, a little bit more than $25,000, right, Nicole, to apply for this. I mean, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, you're right. From the legal standpoint, we've seen this before. It'll probably have the same fate that a lot of these things do.
Yeah.
I mean, DACA ultimately, DAPA as well. You know, these were administrative moves, executive moves that ultimately got shut down by the courts. In the case of DACA, at least it was allowed for those who had it to continue to renew, but all the new cases got halted. And I think DAPA was crushed or killed pretty fast out of the
Yeah.
gate.
KFT, keeping families together.
Yeah, KFT as well did not survive long. Okay, I've been losing some questions, but I will say
Because
that
I'm talking too much. We're talking too much.
we're getting too many piled up, and now the very first ones have slipped too far away. But which I feel bad about because I just told you at the beginning that we take them in the order they come in. But I can tell you that 3 of the questions were again dealing with travel. You know, my husband is a permanent resident. Is it okay for him to go to Mexico and come back? So those of you who had those travel questions, go back and listen. If you weren't listening, you know, 8:29 p.m. is where we started talking about the considerations for traveling. There was one specifically about a DUI, and it was dismissed, worried about, is that something I can get deported for? I'm going to say generally no for that, unless there's more to it that I'm unaware of. But if you had a DUI that was dismissed, even if you had a DUI that you were convicted of, that would not be a deportation situation.
Not a deportable offense, a DUI. So that person is good. That's a good question. Can I grab Karen's question?
Yeah.
Or is Karen?
Nope. Karen is fine. I'm just trying to.
Okay.
Karen.
Oh
yeah, there's our. Oh.
Yeah. Karen. Okay. Karen. Oh yeah, it's tough because of the questions. But anyway, Karen's really question around. Was D1 crew member entered the United States on a D1 visa, and sounds like they have a 21-year-old child. Is it worth it to try to do adjustment of status in this administration? D1's a little bit tricky. You know, CD crew members typically cannot adjust status. So that's something that we would need to take a look at. And give us a call, Karen. We do these types of cases, but the CD visa is special. So be careful with that. Hopefully you guys can hear us okay. I'm getting an unstable connection situation here.
Okay, Chris here says, is it safe to get citizenship for a green card holder right now? Yes, it is safe so long as you are eligible, and you want to make sure you talk to us about that. I would say it's even encouraged right now.
Yeah, encouraging it. 100%.
You know, if you meet all the requirements and you don't have anything that's going to cause a problem, I think it's absolutely a great idea to naturalize right now. But like all immigration cases, you want to consult with somebody first, because there are some pitfalls, not just because of this administration necessarily, but just generally. There are some things that you want to make sure are in order and are not going to be a problem before you take the first step. Before you file anything, we want to make sure that we are 100% confident that the case is going to be successful at the end. If we think there's going to be a problem in it, that's something we want to know right at the beginning. We don't want to find out about that somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what you're doing with your naturalization case, or you're using one of these, you know, community friends who's helping everybody out, who doesn't really know what they're doing either,
for $25,000,
you really are in a high risk of maybe making a misstep that could not just cause your case to get denied. I mean, that's an option, a possibility. But we've seen cases where not only does it get denied, you're in a worse situation. You now find yourself in a removal situation where you're getting deported, and it's all because you filed for citizenship when you really should not have.
Yeah.
So, yes, highly encourage it.
Yeah.
Right now, because it could change. I mean, we have this administration for, 3+ years still. So a lot can continue to change. And this could be one of the categories where things do change. So I would recommend, if you're eligible, and you've been thinking about doing it, and you've been procrastinating, stop procrastinating, give us a call. Let us make sure that you're a perfect candidate for it or a very good candidate, and let us take care of it for you so that you can stop worrying about all of this. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. Now is a great time. We have seen someone said my lawyer, Mr. Mendoza.
Oh yeah. The roofer.
The roofer, the
My
roofer
lawyer,
Peron.
Mr. Mendoza.
Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. So, yes, we have seen an uptick big time in people wanting to apply for US citizenship. We're totally here for you to support you and make sure that all goes well on that last step of your immigration journey. So critically important not to just fool around and find out that something bad is at the end of this tunnel. So be careful with that naturalization application. It's looks pretty straightforward. It's not. There are a lot of pitfalls in the naturalization application, and please reach out to us if you need help with that.
Yeah, and Zeri wants to know: can my daughter is a U.S. citizen? Can she help her husband from Nicaragua?
Yeah, potentially, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's going to depend on some things, but just generally, yes, a U.S. citizen absolutely is able to help their non-U.S. citizen spouse.
All right, I'm gonna. This question from Mr. Lowe, Alvaro Lowe, is in Spanish. He's asking how long is it taking to, I believe, to get a green. John's opening up a cold one.
Don't worry, it's not Budweiser.
He's doing a brewski here. It's a anyway. Perdón profesional por presencia de 601 cuando tiempo tarde en residente permanente pidiendo a su esposa. I believe what Mr. Lowe is saying, and my Spanish is mi inglés es mejor de mi español, señor. But he's asking how long is it taking to do a 601 waiver and go through that process to get permanent residency through a spouse. So the 601 waiver is in 3 steps. Okay, tres tapas. The first one is 17 months or so, and that's to file the petition. So un año y media, más o menos, por un primer tapa. And I'm like completely butchering Spanish right now, so my apologies. And then the second step is filing the waiver. And the waiver right now is taking about 34 months. So casi tres años, señor, por un tapa segundo. Okay, so then we have, so we're, can you add these months up? So 17 plus 34, and then the last step is it depends on how long it takes to get an interview. So that can take anywhere from 6 months to a year. Let's just say 12 months. What are we? 17 plus 34. Nobody has a calculator.
63 months.
63 months, which divided by 12 is what? It's like around 5 years. Casi 5 años, más o menos. So it's a long process, guys. We really advise that if you want to go through the provisional waiver process, you need to just file that I-130 petition to get the ball rolling and get it started. Okay. So, Mr. Lowe, hopefully that was helpful to you with my Spanglish.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well done.
Okay.
So one of the questions that slipped away from TikTok here was somebody was asking, she wanted to know what the fastest, best way is to bring her siblings here. They're 28 and 26, and they are both single. So what would you say to a U.S. citizen who's got single siblings who are adults living in another country? What options might they have?
So really ask me that question. If we're talking about U.S. citizen petitioning for their siblings, okay, it is the longest wait. It's the longest category. It's the fourth preference category. We encourage you to take a look at the visa bulletin. I'm here now. You can just Google visa bulletin and it will come up. It's free. You can look at it, but it shows how long it's taking. So if we look at the fourth preference category, they are the cutoff dates for the Philippines is January 1, 2006. Mexico, March 15th, 2001. India is the same as the Philippines at January 1, 2006. China, January 1, 2008. And all the rest of the countries also January 1, 2008. So if these siblings were born in Mexico, then you're looking at a 24-year wait. So you file a petition, your petition's probably going to take 5 years to get approved by USCIS, and then you have to wait another, 19 years. So Mexico, not great, right? Such a long wait time. The Philippines, it's 06, right? That's the cutoff date. So you're talking about, what is that, 19 years?
Yes.
So you're talking about 19 years. If your siblings are from the Philippines, born in the Philippines, and you file a petition for them, it's 19 years. India is the same, 19 years. China mainland is 17 years, and every other country is 17 years. So that is a very long wait for your siblings. Whatever the country is, there are investment possibilities. They could, as one of our people on Facebook who asked a question, they could potentially get a position here in the United States that would be faster. I mean, we would have to take a look at the siblings and what they're doing, what their credentials are. Can they come here on an H-1B visa? Can they do an F1? Because that's a very long process. Now, if you're just looking at your siblings and you're just like, they have none of those things. There are no other options other than just me filing this I-130 petition for my siblings. Did you say like 28, 26?
Yeah, there's 28 and
Yeah.
26 years old, respectively.
I mean, you just got to file the petition if there are no other options, right?
I mean, the time will pass.
The time will pass. The time will pass. I know it's discouraging to think, oh my gosh, I'm filing a petition and it's going to take 19, 20 years, but the time will pass.
That's right.
If there are other opportunities, I mean, you can reach out and we can do a strategy session to see what other options you have for your siblings. We'd be happy to consult with you. All right.
Yeah. Sorry you had to deliver that not great news.
Yeah. And I hate delivering that news. And if no one ever calls me about filing for their sibling, I'd be okay with it, because every time I tell a sibling how long it's going to take, just the look on their faces, it's just like,
yeah.
Are you serious right now? Okay. Samir has a question here. Samir, is it possible for a fast food employer in the United States to sponsor a foreign worker for a green card? If so, what is a typical time period required for the process? Samir, it depends on visa bulletin availability, and we're looking at roughly 3 years, especially depending on the position. There is a backlog right now, in a little bit of backlog by a couple of years in the Philippines, a couple of years in Mexico. Of course, India, don't even ask, right? It's 12-year backlog. China, it's 5. And the rest of the country, it's a couple years. So what that means is the processing time itself takes about 3 years. But if you're from India, for example, that person's going to have to wait for a visa to become available. If you're from the other countries, not India, then the processing time takes about 3 years, and the visa bulletin wait is about a couple. So the 3 years is going to take up all that time, and they would be here roughly in about 3 years. So for people like Samir who are like, oh my gosh, 3 years, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not going through that process. Don't think that way. Think prospectively, think in the future, think about growing your business, right? Think about the workforce here in the United States.
Pakistan.
That's right, from Pakistan. So you're talking about like a 3-ish year waiting period. Think about, helping a person in Pakistan who is going to be working for your business come to the United States, right? And don't think about 3 years. 3 years is nothing. I don't even know how I became this age. I mean, it's like year after year after year. Our oldest daughter just graduated from college. 3 years is nothing. So for those of you who are employers, and you're out there, you're in the construction industries, you're just like, my gosh, what's going to happen if they raid my workers? And some of these guys, maybe they're undocumented. What am I going to do? Well, you're going to plan. You're going to talk to your workers, and you're going to ask them about their cousins and their brothers and their siblings or whatever who are not here yet. And you're going to go through this EB3 process and bring them to the United States. And that's how you are going to secure your workforce here in the United States, because you're not going to do it with US citizens, right? So that's what you got to do. Samir, give us a call. Nicole. Is this the same Nicole? No. So Mr. Cabrera is asking like 75 million times, if I got a 601 waiver with green card, can I qualify for citizenship? Yes, possibly. We got to look at the whole case, right? I mean, you got a waiver filed. You got the green card. We have to look at your other eligibilities, but that by itself is not going to prevent you necessarily from applying for U.S. citizenship. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, and you're welcome, Samir. And give us a call, because I mean, obviously there are requirements. It's not as
Right.
simple as just saying, hey, I have a restaurant or I have a construction company and I want this person in Pakistan.
You have to go through a process.
there is a process that you need to go through,
Right.
obviously. So, and we can certainly guide you through that. We do mostly family immigration questions here on Facebook Live and TikTok. But in our law firm, we do a lot of business immigration as well. A lot of our clients are employers, companies that hire us for all kinds of things. So if you need help with business immigration, we certainly have folks that can do that as well.
Yeah, we started our law firm doing mostly business immigration.
Yep.
Remember?
I do indeed. How could I
But
forget?
yeah, to go through that EB3 process, really looking at you have to advertise the position to U.S. willing workers, right? So there is Samir's already talked to us, but
Okay.
but there is a process to follow, and you have to take a look at your potential person that you're going to bring over and whether they actually have the qualifications for what you need. Say Samir's looking for a manager for his restaurant, and he wants his manager to have at least 3 years experience, but the guy he's bringing over from Pakistan does not have 3 years experience. Well, we need to lower the requirements to 2 years, right? If that's what he fits. So there's a rhyme and a reason to EB3 cases, of course, in all immigration cases, but we'd be happy to talk to you again, Samir.
Yep. Okay, folks, we are out of time.
You want to go out of town?
Yeah. We are out of time, so we're gonna cut out of here. We will see you next time. It'll be not this coming Wednesday, but the following Wednesday.
Next Wednesday. That's right.
Not this coming Wednesday, but the following Wednesday, same time. We will be here at 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock to give you updates and answer your questions. Hopefully, this has been helpful for you. It's been a lot of fun for us. We always enjoy spreading the information and getting your questions answered. Remember, it's not legal advice. We'll see you next Wednesday. All right.
Bye. 2 thumbs up.
All right.
Bye, guys.